Hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial in which I will show you how we can create a rendering of an object like this plastic furniture piece on a transparent background with a natural drop shadow. Everything will start by exporting the geometry from Fusion 360 as OBJ mesh to scale to Blender. Then we will go to Polyhaven, find actually HDRI images we like, go to Blender, set up all our environment. As you can see here, we have the background image, and then prepare everything for the final rendering, like selecting the ground plane and turning this into a shadow catcher, and then also making the background transparent. So when we do a rendering, we can actually save this out with a transparent background, just with the drop shadow. As you can see here in Pixelmator, when I turn the background white on and off the layer, we have here the transparent background. Okay, let's do it. To start, in Fusion, I will right-click onto the body to export, save as mesh, and then specify the unit system to be meter. Blender works with meter, so when we import it, it will be scale-wise correct. Refinement, high is fine. Click OK, select the desktop or wherever you would like to export it and give this a name and click Save. In Blender then, I press A, press X, delete everything. I will make sure that my unit system is currently in meters. Then I go File, Import, Wavefront OBJ, go to where I have the OBJ import and make sure that up is Z, forward is Y. Very good. Click Import. Takes a moment, it's a big file. There we are. Beautiful. I will go Add Plane, press S, make the plane a little bit bigger. I will go Add and say Camera. Go wireframe mode, there is the camera. I move the camera a little bit away, a little bit up. There we are. Press N, reset all this to 0. And then I see I have to rotate this to 180. And then this I have to rotate up a little bit. I move this up. Then I click the camera icon to see where the camera is. There we are. Press G and Z and I scale up a little bit. Very good. This backdrop I can select, press S and make quite a lot bigger. Let's go back to shaded mode. I will go to the shader editor, select the ground, click new, type in the name ground and make sure that specularity and roughness is all 0. It's pretty much a flat white material. Then I can select the chair or the bench. And we give this name bench. Roughness I set to 0.1, specularity 0.5, kind of like a standard, somewhat plastic material. And then the red I select, make this a little bit darker. Keep in mind the colors we select here, RGB, are light colors, not representing object colors. We can't print all the colors we can see on a display, for example. Very good. Go to the camera. We set the rendering to cycles. Then up here, let's click render. And zoom in a little bit with the mouse, scroll wheel, shift middle mouse button, pan around. Okay, there's a little bit of light going on. There we are. I will go to the world. Here we are in the shader editor, node editor. And what I now would like to do, instead of using a grayscale image, gray color, I would like to use an environmental image. Such environmental images, HDRIs, high dynamic range images, you can find, for example, on the website Polyhaven. I click the collection they have or scroll up and down, you see they photographed quite a lot of interior and exterior environments. What is really interesting about this rendering technique is because it captures as a photo an environment, the rendering we will create will look like as the object is sitting inside that environment. So here in the night image, this will be dark. We also don't have any sharp shadows. Here on the highway, very clear sky. The sun is very strong drop shadow. So if you look around, you can see here the sun is a little bit further away, more milky. There's some sort of a long drop shadow. Overcast in Stuttgart, hillside, like a really diffused, somewhat drop shadow. When you click such an image, we then can select various resolutions. 1K is fine for what we're doing. Click download. Then here, this downloaded this file on my side, the hilly terrain, into my downloads folder. In Blender back, I can then go to add texture, environment texture, open, go to downloads folder. Here I have this hill terrain image. I connect this, very nice. And then when I turn on the rendering, look at this. You see, there is actually an environment. Beautiful. So the advantage of this rendering or lighting technique, image-based lighting, is the colors and the light. Everything is very natural. The downside is the limited ability to change it. I can, for example, scale this one down to make this more an evening thing. Now, this definitely works. I can also make this really bright, but I mean, this is overexposed. But yeah, this is kind of for the strength, and maybe I can rotate it. So I go to input, texture coordinates. This is for the coordinate system, and then I need to adjust the mapping. How is this image mapped around the world? There. And with this tool, now I have access to location, rotation, and scale. And when I, move actually the z-axis, I'm rotating this. I mean, I can also do funny things like rotate it this way and make kind of goofy images. 0 taps 0, enter. Very good. So let's go to right click vertical split on that border. We stop that rendering here. We start the rendering there. I press the camera button to go into the camera. Scroll wheel, zoom in. The drop shadow, I really want to go to the right side anyway, so this is kind of good. The camera's a tick too high for me. So I go to side view, move this down, press R, move the camera up. And this is actually not too bad. I can select this object, RZ to rotate along the Z-axis, and maybe rotate this a little bit. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Now I would like to set everything up so we can put this into a presentation. But the problem is we have the background and we have this ground. With the ground, this is actually really easy to fix. We can select the object, go to object in the shader editor, make sure that reflection and specularity is at 0, and then we go to the properties, go to visibility, and here we have options like make this show up for the camera, don't emit light, don't be influencing the reflection. And here on the mask, click this shadow catcher, and if you pay attention, there is the shadow still there. So it makes actually the object transparent, And where a shadow is, it shows that shadow. Pretty awesome. Now we need to fix the issue of the background. We can go to the world, sorry. We can go to the camera. Then we scroll down to film and click transparent. There. So this checkerboard you see here, that is actually the standard yeah, image to show that the background is transparent. Few more tricks we can do. We see, because we had a white ground, this is actually showing a white reflection. If I select in this view my plane and make this a little bit darker, you see how I'm darkening this slightly. That's actually pretty good. This is also the best way how to render an object with a drop shadow. Doing the drop shadow in Photoshop, if I'm honest, I most times see that instantly. It's really difficult to do that physically believable. So this way we can just render it. Little bit of perfection. I zoom onto my object. There we are. Then add texture, noise. There we are. Color to here. I know 500. If I zoom in more, I can see that there's a little bit of stretching going on. This is not really ideal. So add input texture coordinates, and I say for the coordinate system, use kind of like the object's own 3D system, if you want to say. So if I now release the mouse, you can see that there is no stretching anymore. Very good. Maybe 1000 to make it nice and tiny. Very good. Then I bring this down to here, disconnect it, and we want to use this noise for the bump mapping for the normal to adjust the surface structure. So add vector bump. Color can go into height, normal into normal. And look at that. That's pretty cool. 0.001 has to be really tiny. And look how beautiful now this highlight looks. Compare this artificial 80s rendering. This is more realistic. We have all these structural elements there. To zoom a little bit better onto this object, when I was scrolling, I so quickly jumped right into the object. Frame selected. And I think, no, I should be able, to zoom in further. Maybe a little bit smaller. Maybe a little bit finer. There, very good. And look at this stuff here. This looks really beautiful. And from a distance, this reflection and the highlights are much, much better. Okay, we are actually ready to do a rendering. So I go back into my camera. Now, I will go to the render settings and max sample. I will set on purpose to 200 because I would like this fine noise to render out really nice. So 200 samples before the denoiser kicks in. Here, if I do this just for comparison, 10 samples and 10 for the denoiser. If I now zoom in, you can see how a lot of that detail is actually gone because of the denoiser. Okay, very good. Let's stop the rendering. We can go to object output. We can keep the dimensions we have for the paper. That's all good. PNG, RGBA, that's what we want. No JPEG. JPEG has no transparency. So I will fill the background. And let's hit render. And you see it's going to take a moment till this reaches 200. So I'm going to pause the rendering and then I will be back. So the image is finished rendering. I can now go ahead and say save as, go to the desktop, and again, PNG RGBA is really what I want, and call this bench. Very good. And here I am inside Pixelmator, which is my favorite Photoshop alternative. It does pretty much the same. I have my image loaded. You can see here the checkerboard backdrop. I'm going to add a layer on the back. I'm the fill command, fill this. And then there you can see now there's the drop shadow, there's one behind, but actually now I noticed because I made the ground a little bit grayish, and the whole body on the white backdrop actually looks grayish. Now for reference, I'm going to open actually the same object where I did a rendering with a white backdrop. There we are. Okay. Now there we can see, wow, quite a difference. Now here the reflection down there. So honestly, the white one in the end turned out, or the white ground in the end turned out much better. This image now I can export as a JPEG if I want to, but quite honestly, the rendering, the PNG file is all I would need to put into a presentation for or inside InDesign, Illustrator, Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, or so. There isn't really else anything to do. The image is ready to be composed. And that also means this video is done. See you later.